you once more and to stand with our fearless civil rights leader, Reverend Al Sharpton, someone who grew up underneath giants like Shirley Chisholm and Adam Clayton Powell, James Brown, and William Augustus Jones, and of course Jesse Jackson. Grew up under giants, and now Al Sharpton is a giant, and I'm proud to stand on his shoulders. He's a voice for the voiceless, a defender of the disenfranchised, and a powerful, profound, prophetic, principled preacher who's made this country a better place. Thank you, Al Sharpton. Of course, Reverend Jackson, we all stand on your shoulders. We're thankful for you. We continue to keep hope alive as we march forward during these challenging times. Reverend Sharpton mentioned, I now have the honor of serving as the chair of the House Democratic Caucus. And shortly after I received that responsibility, I went back home and I ran into one of my colleagues, one of my constituents, I should say, on Fulton Street. And he came up to me and said, aren't you the congressman who a year ago shouted out Biggie Smalls on the floor of the House of Representatives? I said, yeah, that was me. And he said, and now you're the #5 Democrat in the United States Congress? I said, yes, sir, that kind of worked out. And without missing a beat, he said, how the heck did that happen? And so, Rev, I responded the only way that I could. You never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. So, I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I have to serve, and I'm going to get out of your way in a minute, but as chair of the caucus, we're proud that Democrats are now in the majority. We thank you for all that you did to ensure that would happen. And we're going to work hard to justify the confidence that you have placed in us, particularly on the question of voting rights. And so within our first 100 days, we've already passed legislation to ensure and enact early voting in every state of the nation. We've passed legislation that is signed into law within the practice of partisan vicious gerrymandering. We've passed legislation to expose the unregulated money in the era of Citizens United that has been suppressing the voices of everyday Americans. We've passed legislation that, if enacted into law, would ensure same-day voter registration. And perhaps most importantly, we passed legislation that, if enacted into law, would re-enfranchise formerly incarcerated individuals and give every single one of them the right to vote. And we're just getting started. That's why we have to educate. That's why we have to motivate. And if necessary, if they continue to be an obstacle in the Senate, we're going to have to eliminate the Senate Republican majority so that we can end the era of voter suppression once and for all. Let me simply say, we're operating in a historic context. Reverend Sharpton often talks about this. This is a great country, a country that was founded on high ideals, liberty and justice for all. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, land of the free, home of the brave, a country founded on high ideals. But we also know that during the founding of the Republic, there was a genetic imperfection, a birth defect on the question of race that manifested itself in the form of chattel slavery, one of the worst crimes ever perpetrated in the history of humanity. Now, we're thankful that in 1865, we were able to end that practice in this country, and that marked the era of Reconstruction. And what it symbolized is that in this nation, we seem to undergo moments of progress followed by moments of backlash. But the progress came in 1865, 13th Amendment, outlawed slavery, 14th Amendment, subsequent to that, equal protection under the law, 15th Amendment guaranteeing the right to vote regardless of race. The Reconstruction era, 1865-1878, but then the North pulls out of the South, and a backlash ensues. All of a sudden, Jim Crow descends on the country. The KKK rises up. The lynching epidemic. Plessy versus Ferguson declares segregation constitutional, and the black codes are imposed. This lasts for almost 100 years. Progress followed by backlash. But then a new generation of civil rights leaders, including Jesse Jackson, rise up to mark another era of progress, along with Rosa Parks and led by Dr. King. 1964 Civil Rights Act is passed, striking a blow against Jim Crow. 1965 Voting Rights Act to try to guarantee the right to vote. The war on poverty, the Great Society, Medicare, Medicaid, culminating in 1968 with the Fair Housing Act. But then, as often is the case, progress is met by backlash. And in that year, everything changes. In April, Dr. King is assassinated. And then 2 months after that, after winning the California primary, Senator Robert Kennedy assassinated. And with Senator Kennedy out of the way, in November of that year, Richard Nixon wins election, running on a platform capitalizing on the anxiety at the progress that had been taking place. Sound familiar? And that then ushered in a moment of anti-busing, anti-affirmative action, anti-government. And when he declared in 71 a war on drugs, there were less than 350,000 people incarcerated in America. Today, 2.2 million. More people than any other country in the world. Progress followed by backlash. And then finally, a third moment, I'm going to get out of your way in a minute, a third moment of progress emerges with a new hope, backed by visionaries like Al Sharpton. When in 2008, Barack Obama is elected as the 44th president of the United States of America. That's my new favorite number, y'all, 44. So he's a great president. But then folks said there was going to be a post-racial America. But that lasted for 2 years. Because then in 2010, the Tea Party runs and takes back the House, saying we want our country back, as if someone took it away. And in 2013, Supreme Court strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act to usher in a new era of voter suppression. And then ultimately, 3 years after that, 2016, the backlash is complete with the election of so-and-so. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Individual one. Don't get upset at me, the government gave him that name. A master of deception, a hater in the White House, a reality show host masquerading as President of the United States. Wickedness in high places. But my final observation is that in the midst of all of that, we serve a good God. Here's how I know. Here's how I know. The scripture in Daniel talks about King Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he ordered them to bow down and worship the image of gold that had been erected. They refused. Now, when they were asked to do it, that was a James Comey moment. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The former FBI director who was summoned in February of 2017 and ordered to pledge loyalty to King Donald. James Comey refused and he was fired. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused and they were tossed into the fiery furnace. Now watch this. The scripture says